Hey friend, it's me Vasco with a quick announcement. We at the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast are organizing this year's Scrum Master Summit. For tickets and details on the summit, check out the URL bit.ly/SM Summit 22. All one word, SMSUMMIT 22. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday and Change Leadership episode this week with Bevan Williams. Hi, Bevan. Welcome back.
Hi, Vasco. Thank you so much for having me again.
Absolutely. So Wednesdays are change days here on the podcast. And obviously, we want to focus on change because as Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, we work with change every single day. And we need to have a pretty large toolbox if we are to succeed in that kind of environment, because every change process is different. And we want to explore one of those with you, Bevan, process you were involved with, and then walk us through the steps of how that went, and then also highlight for us the tips, the tricks, the tools, and the techniques that you learned back then and still use today.
A company I was working at as an Agile coach, so across multiple teams. I think we were at that stage about 9 or 10 teams at the time. And the CEO of this company had this perception that development was slow. I was fortunate enough to be involved in these leadership team meetings, and they were talking about, and the CIO is their CTO is their head of marketing, and they're talking about, this year, what do we need to achieve? What are the biggest problems this organization needs to solve? And speed was a big one. Which is very interesting because if you spoke to anyone in the tech teams and product development teams, they thought they were really, really quick. And in fact, a lot of the metrics almost kind of showed that, but it's this perception. So we were at that stage trying to, identify and share the value of this way of working. So not a top-down, directive, I tell you what to do and when to do it approach. And this seemed like a really good opportunity to kind of change the mindset to this more collaborative approach of understanding, even what is speed. So how do we share someone that's saying, I'm really, really quick to someone that thinks, I think you're really, really slow. So the technique that we did, we took this again to the team. We said, this is what your leadership think. Right. So we need to understand this perception and we need to figure out together. So what we used as a tool then was kind of from Lean. It's kind of that value stream mapping. Right. So very much took the typical software development process from, the moment that the team took something into in progress all the way to the moment that it was released and given to a customer. And we had some really good data. At the beginning of the year, the average number of days it would take from the moment something started to the moment that it's in the hands of the customer was 10 days. So we're about 9.5 teams. The one wasn't really a team, but it was about 50 engineers, testers, analysts, all working together, cross-functional teams. And very much, again, we put the information up in this value stream map. We used information from their tools, and we also used some subjective data, right? So we don't have actual tracking measurements for how long we end up waiting for a code review, but based on the team, they said, well, on average, we waited about 4 days, for example.
And you showed that data to the team, right? So they were kind of looking at the value stream map of their own work.
Correct. Yeah, we co-created it together. So what we did is we created like a 3-hour workshop. We went downstairs into the big space that this company had with this huge screen behind it, and we actually just explored it together. So I filled in all the data that I had from actual, quantitative data. So a lot of the cycle time information we already had, and then some of that just kind of work versus wait time. We kind of filled in those gaps there. And then we said, well, what do we need to do? What's one thing that we can try to make this whole process, this 10 days average, a little bit better? And the team came up with a whole bunch of ideas, and then we set a cadence for reflecting on this. So every few weeks, we actually came back together and we said, has this made a difference at all? Over 9 months, we took that 10 days down to 2.5 days. So like a very, very positive outcome. And we included leadership all the time. So we made sure that when we met, it was in a very public space. The data we stuck up on a wall so that the CEO could walk past it and say like, well, what's happening here? What do these numbers mean? And whenever we would have regular meetings, we'd actually kind of talk about this concept of speed, saying, your speed perception is something should be done in a day. It's not maybe possible because we're currently at 10 days, but let's try and improve that. So to go from 10 days to 2.5 days was a huge win. And essentially it was starting off with this technique of just, well, take it back to the team and using something visual like, value stream mapping. And it was quite a fun thing to do that included leadership level. It helped change their idea of why it was needed to collaborate in these ways. And it led to some more cool things as well, right? So it led to some things like, entrusting the team to do things like self-selection, doing experimentation teams as well. So actually mixing, engineering, marketing, operations teams as well. Had quite a good few outcomes.
The way I understood the process was that after the problem was stated in a very fuzzy manner, like, we're not quick enough, we need more speed. How many times have we heard that? Everybody listening to this show probably has heard the same. But the first step was to define speed, right? Like what do we mean by speed? And of course, one way to do it is to take it back to the team, as you said. So, hey guys, this is what we heard. How do we define this and how can we measure it? I really like the idea of using something visual, kind of grounds everybody in the same topics, right? Because we could discuss, and I'm sure many people out there would probably do this, which is, okay, so what are the things making us slow? And a bunch of things would come up, right? Like we would brainstorm lots of ideas and then try to remove those, but it wouldn't be a systemic understanding of what speed is, right? So as we use the value stream map, we have like this end-to-end understanding of what the time is between a particular point in the process and another. So using something visual also helps to coalesce these ideas. Instead of just brainstorming how to improve, we actually now can pinpoint where are the biggest gaps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a couple of years ago, and since then there's more techniques. I've really enjoyed the work, the clean work. So Caitlin Walker is sharing quite a lot in the agile space as well around clean language and systemic modeling. And even, in hindsight with what I know now, is like looking at that in terms of definition of speed and getting what those understandings are. So, speed, it's like, what does that mean to different people? And I think that's a technique that, when it comes to change now, like when I work with leadership teams, it's a skill that is subtle and I'm still learning it, but it's very exciting to see when it works. When people envision their own outcome and you hold it up next to someone else's vision of an outcome, and suddenly it becomes the shared outcome, it's quite a magical place, because then when people identify change and what they can do differently next time, they can initiate that from their space. I don't have to get into a space of trying to understand where you are before I can work with you. I just trust that you know where you are and kind of get you to or help you see what the next step might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you also alluded to is this need to have those definitions discussed. Because I'm sure that if you asked a quality engineer in the team what was the problem with speed, they would have a different understanding of what the problem was compared to, say, a product owner or even the CEO, right? So one of the cool things about this process that you described is also this involving leadership, right? So show them the data. You want it to be done in one day? Well, we're at 10. So perhaps one day is not the next best target, but we can work on reducing this. And as you said, also regularly reflect and improve further. That was, of course, something that is not new for any of us, but really bears repeating, that this regular periods of execution and reflection are extremely important for change.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah.
A great process, of course, and lots of tips shared. So thank you very much for that, Bevan.
Awesome. Thank you, Vasco.
Hey friends, it's Vasco again, now with a bit longer announcement. I'm part of the team that is behind the Global Scrum Master Summit, the conference dedicated to the Scrum Master role. If you're a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master Summit is the place to learn, to share, and of course to meet new friends. We will have lots of live sessions where you can meet and network with other Scrum Masters from the whole globe. So make sure you check it at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. We have several amazing keynotes and 7 tracks that feature people like you and, of course, thought leaders sharing their insights, their knowledge, and helping you become an awesome Scrum Master. You can check out all of the details of the summit, including the keynotes announced, the track chairs, and much more at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. That's all one word. That's bit.ly/SM SUMMIT and the numeral 22. I'll see you on the conference floor.